Continuing our deep dive exploration streak of Marvel's latest Predator vs. Wolverine comics, we have ourselves the second issue of this gloriously gruesome comic that embraces the good old-fashioned ultra-violence that is a staple for both Wolverine and Predators. Unlike the first issue, this is not a one-on-one battle. This time, it's a battle between Team X and a Predator hunting party deep inside the South American jungles. Wolverine has got Sabretooth, Maverick, and a bunch of other Team X members with him. Trouble is, most of them are itching for a fight, and that just adds to the chaos and carnage. Predator vs. Wolverine 2 is a brutal art show of carnage that's relentless and unapologetic. Oh, and the comic ends with a stage set for the bloodiest issue of the story, a fight between the Predator and the most lethal version of Wolverine. So without further ado, let's do a quick recap of issue 1 before diving into issue 2.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
The thrill is the kill. Wolverine and Logan's long-standing feud. Although I've explored the first issue of the comic in another video, I would quickly go through it here for those who have not checked the other one out. But do not worry, I'll leave a link in the description. The first issue begins in the Canadian wilderness with a grievously injured Wolverine running away from the wrath of his otherworldly pursuer. He then takes us through how all of it started in the first place. So the feud between the Predator and Wolverine started in the early days of the 18th century back in Alaska. Wolverine was present there to help a man look for his abducted child, but that was of course a ruse. But this journey through the icy Alaskan wilderness brought Wolverine face to face with one of his most vicious enemies, the Predator of Alaska. Later, the two of them fought a high-octane battle with a red and green blood filling the pages of the comic. Wolverine was young and inexperienced as a fighter, so he took some massive blows and falsely assumed himself to be victorious when a grizzly pulled the injured Predator inside its cave. Of course, the Predator decapitated the grizzly and looked for Wolverine, but the mutant was long gone. Wolverine did not realize that this was only the beginning of a prolonged multi-generational battle and that his nemesis was not easily defeated. Many years later, Wolverine and Team X, including Cruel, Maverick, Sabretooth, and Jackson, found themselves in the jungles of South America on the orders of Team X's leader and Wolverine's creator, Professor Norton. Their mission was to infiltrate the stronghold of a rebel general who was amassing weapons deep in the jungles and to stop him from staging a coup. But the moment Wolverine saw mutilated and flayed humans, a memory triggered in his mind, and he almost knew that his old nemesis was back to haunt him, but he could not recall correctly. You see, the second issue starts basically at a time when Logan barely knows his own name. Thanks to multiple mind swipes performed on Logan by Thornton, he is less a mutant and more of an arsenal. Issue 2, present day. Once again, the story begins in present-day Canada. In the previous issue, Wolverine had resorted to hiding somewhere in the middle of a mountain cliff, with a Predator atop the cliff still looking for his prey. The Predator was no longer shielding himself under the cloaking device, probably because he wanted to face each other, to recognize each other as a predator and prey when he ripped out Wolverine's spine. But I'm guessing that's wishful thinking on the Predator's part. Wolverine had been on the cliff for some time. He did not know if it was for 10 minutes or an hour or more. You see, when it's a matter of life and death, you tend to forget the concept of time. Blood gushes through your veins, adrenaline gets pumped, and all you think about is survival. But he had been waiting long enough to know that his healing factor had kicked in full swing. Blood started to clot, his damaged nerves were fusing, and the torn muscles had begun to heal. It was a much-needed rest that allowed the clawed mutant to recover, as he knew he was about to suffer more pain. Below him was a fall of about 200 feet, and above him somewhere was the hunter from the stars. The Predator had been coming at him for years, and Wolverine almost respected his stubbornness for that. However, the beast was impatient too, never waiting in one place for long, always on the hunt, moving from one place to another, looking for Wolverine. So our X-Man decided to trust his instincts and climb down the cliff as far as he could before making a jump into the stream underneath. However, when misery strikes, it strikes from all corners. Wolverine tripped a little and caused a large boulder to fall. The Predator knew of Wolverine's location and launched guided weapons. There was an explosion and Wolverine was forced to make the jump. He cut through rocks and trees to fall straight into the cold water below, but water was his weakness. He was already weighed down because of all the adamantium in his bones, but to make it all worse, he had an avalanche of stone pinning him flat. When the Predator followed Wolverine into the water, The latter's lungs were filled with cold, black water and his vision went red. Wolverine was beginning to lose track of where he was, probably because of the limited oxygen supply to his brain. But that's that. The next panel takes us to the confrontation between Team X and the Yautja hunting party in the South American jungles. Team X versus Predator hunting party. Team X, as you'd know, was a dirty crew that did dirty jobs in the name of geopolitical subversions. Assassinate a politician, blow up a dam, seize an oil platform, you name it. The team had arrived to stop a coup, but they found themselves in a war that went beyond borders. So, of course, we were in for some good old-fashioned ultra-violence. With Cruel incapacitated, they were already down to 4 against 5, and each from the other party packed immense brute strength. To make matters worse, Wolverine, like his companions, did not know what exactly they were. As part of Team X, their memories were regularly deleted, but he did his foe's smart disk from the Alaskan duel. Wolverine carried it as a scar, a relic of pain he understood but did not remember. Contrary to how Wolverine would do in a battle, he asked his team to fall back. Maverick wanted to fire away the Predators and Sabretooth followed suit, but Wolverine warned him that this was not going to be a firefight. They needed a beat to dig in and think this one out. Theirs was an invisible enemy, the kind you only know halfway and can't see altogether, so this one required a different strategy than the standard hack and black operations that were the specialty of Team X. Sabretooth was the next to go down as one of the Predators impaled him with a combi stick, but Sabretooth was not an easy target to kill. He pulled the Predator closer and stuck the same stick into the Predator's chest, killing him. With Sabretooth down, they were now 3 versus 4. The smartest thing to do was run and prepare for the fight, and that's what they did. However, the relentless Predators trapped Jackson in a noose, pulling her up until the woman's headless torso dropped down. Next thing we know, there was a massive explosion. Fire and blood were painting the patch of jungle where this duel between superhumans and aliens was taking place. Maverick was heavily injured, although the explosion's impact missed his femoral artery by an inch. Maverick was in no state of walk. Right about now, Maverick saw a cloaked figure approach Wolverine from behind, and Maverick was quick enough to shoot the beast down. Even now, the numbers were against the mutants. Predators were down to 3 and mutants were down to 1 and an injured Maverick. Marriage of convenience. While the Predators tended to their fallen brethren, Wolverine picked up Mav and ran for cover into a structure that was previously being used by the rebel general. Most of his crew had been killed by the Predators and only a few remained, but these guys had firepower. A lot of it. The general knew why Wolverine and his party were there, but being a smart man, he knew that they were not enemies for as long as the Predators were out there. Wolverine could see that they could either fight each other and further lessen their numbers, or join hands and live for another day to pick up the fight. The general pulled back his gun and Wolverine retracted his claws. A marriage of convenience was on the cards. The mutants and the humans joined hands, and now Wolverine was leading the party. They waited for about an hour before the Predators ambushed. The massacre started once again. Men were being slashed as a machete cuts through the grass, but Wolverine, Mab, or the General were nowhere to be seen during the battle. You see, it was a dirty trick that Wolverine played. He was still a member of Team X, and in that right, he was not the most ethical of humans. He still is not Mr. Goody-Goodness as a part of the X-Men, but back then he was worse. Much like the Mayans would engage in ritual sacrifice to nourish the old gods and goddesses in the pre-Columbian era, Wolverine and his new friend fed the Predators with blood that day, setting up the General's men as bait, so that they could slip out of a side entrance. While the facility went kaboom, Wolverine assured Thornton that the General was dead. However, there's more. Predator meets the ultimate version of Wolverine. It was assumed that everyone, including the Predators, had died in the explosion, but of course that was not the case. You see, one of them had survived. Many years later, we find ourselves in Alberta, Canada, the Weapon X facility. A Predator had been prowling the grounds before making his big entrance. He took down the guards one by one and entered the chamber where Weapon X had been kept. Weapon X, a most feral monster whom you may remember from Logan the movie. If the Predator thought that Wolverine was hard to kill, he just met the real beast. Marvelous verdict. In Predator vs. Wolverine number 2, things get intense real quick. This chapter doesn't waste time with explanations and dives right into the gory, gruesome action. The pace is relentless, and it's a wild ride from start to finish. The characters in this book are a mixed bag, and their true colors start to show as they face this relentless threat. Wolverine himself undergoes some significant changes given his complicated history and the tough situations he's been through. The dialogue does a great job of convincing the characters' fear and confusion as they face these mysterious enemies. The narration provides some solid context and descriptions, giving us a clearer picture of the tough spot Wolverine is in. Now let's talk about the art. It's gloriously gruesome. The artist really embraced the violence and injuries in the Mexican jungle setting is surprisingly stunning. The outfits of the Team X members sport are delightfully retro, perfectly capturing the era they hail from. The display of powers and weapons is a brutal spectacle, and the battles are fast and ruthless. We're treated to multiple mutants facing off against multiple predators, and the way they used Yautja weapons is pretty creative. Each page is a new showcase of brutal violence with some pretty gnarly finishing moves happening in just one panel. But it's not all jungle mayhem. The comic also shows the older present-day Wolverine, and it's quite a contrast to his more gruesome appearance in the first chapter. And there's a tantalizing hint of what's to come in the future, with a fresh and chilling style on display. The colors in this comic are fantastic. They add a lot to the violence and tech in the story. When the predators go invisible, they're outlined with a bright blue and white light making their presence known. The alternating shades in the panels keep things visually engaging. The jungle is lush and filled with greens and browns, and the purple sky adds a cool twist. And of course, there's the bold red used for the background and those grisly flayed corpses. The lettering is clean and consistent with some awesome sound effects. The rotating team of artists in the passage of time keeps the series fresh and exciting. It's a wild, fun, and action-packed read.
If you enjoyed this video, click on the like button and comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.